In this example, we talk about how to find the derivative of x squared plus the square root of x over ln of x. So the first thing you should notice is that this is a quotient. We have one thing over a second thing. And that means we should use the quotient rule. So every time you do a problem like this, you should write down the quotient rule and make sure you follow it, until you get to the point where you have it so memorized that it's in your head and you don't even need to look at it. But I'm going to write it down. So f over g, if I take the derivative, I get f prime times g minus f times g prime over g squared. Okay, let's go ahead and apply that. So derivative of that formula, there's the quotient rule. Now, when you use this rule, you want to label or figure out or just remind yourself what's f and what's g. And you can do that with arrows, maybe just pointing at the right spot on the top and the bottom of the function. But if you're pretty good, you can do that. But if you want to be a little more careful and you're a little worried that you might get something backwards, it's best just to write down very clearly f equals, and in this case x squared plus the square root of x, and g equals ln of x, and then start to write down the derivatives. So f prime. And as you start to take that derivative, you get 2x. You might need to think about the square root of x, and it might be a good idea to rewrite f, not the derivative yet, but just to rewrite f using the power of x that's equal to the square root. And once you do that, you can probably pretty quickly write down the derivative. Bring the 1/2 down in front, and you get 1/2 x to the negative 1/2. Okay, and now we'll write down the derivative of g. So g prime is 1 over x. And now, if you're going to put all of this together, it doesn't hurt to rewrite the quotient rule formula one more time. This helps you remember it. And it also shows you where the pieces that we've just calculated go. So f prime g minus f g prime over g squared equals, and then we start to fill it in. All the pieces that we just calculated. F prime first, then g, and then f, and then g prime. Now when you look at that answer, it looks pretty complicated. And so you might think to yourself, maybe I can multiply this out and simplify. Here's how it looks if we try that. So here's the original answer, and one thing we could do, we could distribute on top ln of x. We could distribute it over the two terms on the left. And you get that 2x ln of x plus ln of x over 2 square root of x. And you could do the same thing with the stuff on the right. You could distribute 1 over x. And you get x squared over x plus the square root of x over x. And then nothing really happens on the bottom, so you still have ln of x squared. Well, if you do that, you can see that you can cancel some x's on the right. And here's what it looks like when you cancel those. So that's a simplified version. But if you look at that, I think it's probably not worth doing all that work, because on the top we have our original answer. On the bottom we have our simplified answer. And yes, the bottom is a little more simplified, but it took some work and it was a little bit dangerous to do that algebra unless you're very sure of your answers. So I think in this case, I would just leave the answer the way we started it. I would say the derivative of x squared plus the square root of x over ln of x is that rather complicated looking fraction on the right, and I would just stop there.